This man had enough. See how he taught a seat-kicking kid and his mom a lesson. Carl sank into his seat on the crowded airplane and closed his eyes, eager for the long flight ahead to be over as soon as possible. Just as the cabin doors were closing and the attendants began final checks, he felt a sudden jolt against the back of his seat. He turned around to see a young boy, no more than 6 or 7, sitting in the row behind him. The boy had a mischievous grin on his face as he kicked Carl's seat again. "Hey there, can you please stop kicking my seat?" Carl asked in a friendly tone, trying to get the boy to stop before things escalated. The boy's mother sat next to him, completely absorbed in her magazine. Oblivious to her son's antics, she did not look up or reprimand him. The boy's grin widened as he geared up and delivered another firm kick to the back of Carl's seat. Carl clenched his jaw in frustration. This was not how he wanted to spend the next 5 hours. He contemplated alerting the mother, but hesitated to cause a scene. The plane accelerated down the runway, and the repeated kicks continued, each one making Carl's seat lurch forward. He took a deep breath and braced himself for the inevitable next jolt, realizing this was going to be a very long and uncomfortable flight. During the day, he navigated through back-to-back meetings, each requiring his utmost attention and expertise. Evenings were no less hectic, filled with networking events and late-night strategy sessions with his team. Sleep was minimal and restless, his mind constantly buzzing with data figures, project timelines, and potential client queries. He had planned to use this flight as a much-needed break, a brief period of disconnection from the relentless pace of his job. However, this quest for peace was soon to be disrupted by the mischievous kicks of a young boy seated directly behind him. Carl concentrated on calming his breath, resolutely refusing to let this minor irritation disrupt his tranquility for the duration of the flight. Perhaps a gentle request to the boy might do the trick and put an end to the seat kicking. Carl's polite smile faltered slightly as he caught the boy's attention. "Hey there, could you please stop kicking my seat? It's a bit uncomfortable," he said gently, hoping his tone would convey friendliness rather than frustration. But the kicking didn't just happen once. It started up again, this time with a steady rhythm, as if the boy was treating Carl's seat like a drum. Carl's hands curled into fists, a clear sign of his growing frustration. This flight was supposed to be his chance to relax and unwind, not a test of his patience, leaving him more stressed. "It's time to teach this terrible woman and her son a lesson," Carl thought to himself. He stared intensely ahead, formulating a plan for revenge. So engrossed was he in his scheming that he barely noticed the repeated kicks thump, thump, thump against his seat. "Excuse me," Carl said as the stewardess approached. "Could I please get a cup of water as cold as possible?" "Certainly, sir," the stewardess replied with a polite nod, moving towards the galley. Carl waited patiently, his plan taking shape in his mind. When the stewardess returned, she handed him a plastic disposable cup filled with ice-cold water. Carl thanked her, and then carefully held the cup, contemplating his next move. Then, as if on cue, another kick landed squarely against the back of Carl's seat. It was the final straw. Carl feigned a startled reaction, jerking forward dramatically. In his exaggerated movement, he accidentally tipped the cup of water backward. The ice-cold water sloshed out of the cup, spilling over the unsuspecting mother. The mother let out a startled yelp, her magazine dropping to the floor as she felt the cold water drench her clothes. The boy, too, was caught off guard, his eyes widening in shock as small droplets of cold water splashed over him. "I'm so sorry," Carl exclaimed, turning around with a look of faint concern. "I was just so startled by the kick. I didn't mean to spill this water." The boy, now silent and wide-eyed, seemed to realize the consequence of his actions. His playful grin had faded, replaced by a look of surprise and a hint of regret. Before the woman could even respond, Carl nodded, managing a calm response. "Yes, it was just an unfortunate accident. I got startled and spilled my water." He gave a meaningful glance towards the boy and his mother, ensuring his message was clear. For the remainder of the flight, the seat behind Carl remained still. No more kicks came. The mother and her son sat quietly, their earlier bravado dampened by the cold splash of reality. Carl leaned back in his seat, a small smile playing on his lips.